motoring enthusiasts. If you're not, you took the wrong turn. We are here today for a special thing. I can describe the way it was 40 years ago. There were a few of us that were in the historic garage. That was amazing. It was Whitehall Street. There was a collection of pretty amazing significant historic racing cars. And on the Friday morning, the weather was almost identical to the way it was this morning in Adelaide. And we were given special registration to drive on the streets. The atmosphere of Adelaide was unbelievable, because what we were doing was something of such a world-class standard that it was remarkable. I mean, the work that Mel described this morning of what happened then, it cannot be replicated. We could never do anything so grand again, or can we? The big question. Now, because Adelaide is special, and there have been special people who created all of that. Now, this is going to be a tribute to my mate, John Blanden. I feel very happy to do this. I think it is appropriate. 40 years on, so the way it was, on that Friday morning, the cars started up. We had been given this exemption to drive on the roads in the traffic, but the streets were already lined with people all the way up to and along the hill. The engine started, the flaking paint on the roof inside of the historic garage fell down with a rumble of the noise. Who was there? Put your hands up for that time. Yes. Now, I want to give you a little insight to John Blanden, because he was special. Daughter. May I introduce one of my many daughters and my many children, and this one is the youngest, my daughter Adi. So far. I forgot my glasses, it doesn't matter. Okay, next. JB, from Ballarat, involved in car clubs. Oh, thank you. What the hell, I made it up anyway. Involved in car clubs, rallies, club motorsport. And then he moved to Adelaide early in the 1970s as a manager of Bishopsgate Insurance. And what do you do? When you come here with a passion and with a talent and to express yourself, you joined the Sporting Car Club. So that's what he did, and he has made a massive impression on all of us in some way. That is the reason that we're here today, 40 years on. In another 40 or 100 years, wouldn't it be wonderful if we continue on having this iconic bit of fun? Now, he was, from there on, a prolific collector of, is that better? Of amazing cars, more than 40 that I know of. And they were the top shelf of international collectors' motor vehicles. If that collection was put together today, the many hundreds of millions of dollars that would be worth doesn't matter. It was the passion of JB that caused his collecting, not just of the cars, but of motoring heritage information. He and I, in 1975, because I had found the remains of the amazing eccentric genius's creation, the Zephyr Special, and who was there the other day at the historic, the Vintage Hill Climb for the amazing Elder Norman double V8. Amazing devices. Now, the way it was back in those periods, it can't happen again. It can't happen again. They were amazing days. So, because I had found the remains of that yellow thing that I saw when I was a 12-year-old that impressed me, and I thought, wow, I've got this bloody thing and I'm putting nuts and bolts together that I didn't know existed. Who else might be there that's going to have fun? So because of that, a meeting was called. And JB, because of his interstate connections of what was happening there, we started the Historic Racing Register 50 years ago. Now, 1976, John began to get involved in events here. He got connected with CAMS. He was on the CAMS Council and became the chairman of that. And then, are you doing this, daughter? We're into about 3 slides. Yeah, we are.
Oh, there we go.
So then in 1977 to 79, he became, as you do, president of the Sporting Car Club. His time there was, like all presidents of significance, he was an outstanding leader. And also, he, of course, began to engage people. And the way JB did it was special. He had a way about him. The book, the history so far of the Sporting Car Club, is called With Casual Efficiency. JB was a master of casual efficiency. I was with him when he did negotiations. It might have been with a council. It might have been with sponsors. It might have been with potential participants. It might have been with volunteers. The way he did it was with a calmness, with an authority, with a deliberation. He would put his case. I was there on several of these things because we developed further as mates. And he would put his case. It would have been absolutely to the point, absolutely concise. And he would say, now, I want to close all of these roads and involve the schools, and then we will do this, and I want the clubs to be involved, the Lions clubs and so on. I need 100 volunteers, and there will be things where your involvement is that there are the amounts of money that need to be found. And he'd smile, and he'd look in the eyes. And the answer was going to be yes, no, or maybe. It was always yes. Now, he then, how far are we, daughter? Well, in that period of time, he started the Harndorf Motor Museum. He was this prolific collector of racing cars, but also he was running as an owner. He had, excuse me, and keep yours topped up. And he was running with Rob Butcher, Dean Hosking, a team, you know, the Formula 5000 rollers and all sorts of historic things, Cooper climaxes and God knows what. And really actually competing all over Australia, fully involved in full-on motor racing as it was at that time. My 4.5-minute Ken Messenger talks were sort of about a third of the way in. Now, the principal of the racing teams, are we up to that? Yeah, right. Yes. So he became involved. What happened in 1985, we all know that. I would like now to have someone I've got to know over time to answer a couple of questions. Now, Henry. And the questions now are, how did JB become involved in the Formula One activities and what did he bring to that? Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
I'd have to say it's a real pleasure to be here today and to certainly pay tribute and homage to John. I said earlier today that when you're putting this event together and you know nothing about motorsport, it's very hard to envisage who are the people that know and those people that think they know. And John was always one who impressed me that he actually knew what the business was and what we should be doing. To find a support event for the Grand Prix that both paid respect to the Formula One event, but also involved a wide range of people in terms of getting them to the event in a way that was engaged rather than just attending, was something that was special, and that's what John gave us. He gave us a way out of Sydney and Melbourne and other places of engaging with some of the people that are in this room and many others, a way of coming to the Grand Prix and feeling involved. In year one, it was after the event, but in years 2 and thereon, we united his thoughts, his event, with the Grand Prix, and we had the parade of the John Blanden cars on the track itself. And I think that was a testimony to the man who really became part of the Grand Prix. And I have a lot of admiration for John. He did it exceptionally well. Any of you who were involved know the amount of work that went in and the dedication he put to that. But also, it was part of that scenario of events that we put together to make Formula One the best in the world. And certainly John's part of that. He was the best in the world. Thank you.
Mel wasn't coming to the lunch today. I said, mate, I've got a job for you. Now, look, what John did in bringing forward the ideas, for example, the reason we're here today, that John Blanden climbed to the Eagle. When we lost the Grand Prix to Melbourne, I started a group called MECA, Motoring Events Coordinating Committee for Adelaide. We worked for 3 years to fill in the hole because of the loss of the jewel in the crowd. So there was a group of about 10 or 12 people, significant members of the Sporting Car Club, people with a big business background, connected people, shall we say. We put various proposals to the government. I was dealing with direct communication with Bernie Eccleston to bring another round of Formula One here, but also with the IndyCar people, and we were looking at every possibility to fill in the hole, including with Eccleston a round of the International Touring Car Championship, but also there was a big public meeting where the move by the Adelaide City Council was to dig up all of the infrastructure, that is the plumbing and the electrics and that sort of thing. And it's because of the moves that we made over 3 years. Oh, and also another one that we put forward was an international hill climb championship called Race to the Eagle. So all sorts of negotiations of how we would put that off with a massive crowd and so forth as a race up the road that we went on today. We ought to still do that. Now, I think what I'd like to do, that time, 85 onwards, and JB was just, I mean, the Grand Prix rallies. Hands up those who did Grand Prix rallies. Look at them. There's only a few people here, but they were just sensational, those events, where there were usually 250 amazing cars like what we have seen today and many others, from Melbourne to Adelaide for a week of a hell of a lot of fun. I would like to call on someone who was reluctant, but I looked him in the eye, and then he said yes, he would speak, on the way it was in the Blanden household, where he was doing these deals with the amazing world champions of the world and all of those Grand Prix rally dinners of 600 or 700 people. He was doing all of that calmly, but what was it like home, Richard Blanden?
Thank you, Ken. That's been a surprising and a lovely tribute. Thanks. Yeah, home during that era, of course, it was a time when fax machines were very new, and boy did Dad take to using the fax machine. He wouldn't hesitate to find numbers, to send off messages to Honda Motor Corporation. Hey, wouldn't it be good if we got Wayne Gardner? And what if we get one of his Grand Prix bikes? And then, well, we've got permits that these machines can get from the garage to things, so let's put them on the road. So whether it was that, whether it was getting BMW to engage Denny Holm, whether it was Mercedes bringing out Fangio and the special Mercedes race cars, he was always on that fax machine at the time. None of that exists anymore because that old thermal paper, they're all white now. But yeah, he had all these ideas on paying tribute to the history of motorsport in both Australia and recognising the international elements of it as well, and always engaging the Sporting Car Club to assist in it. The car club had such involvement in the Grand Prix and the support events. It was quite incredible. Both as officials at the meetings, but also a place to host a lot of the celebrities that would come as well. So it was a very busy time, but enormous amount of fun. I think on the actual Climb to the Eagle events, it was brilliant because all the actual historic race cars would have a police escort front and rear all the way up to Eagle on the Hill, but then it was every man for themselves amongst the traffic on the way home. Now whether it was Alan Hamilton and the 917 Porsche heading out somewhere towards Monato, whether it was Formula 5000s in and out of traffic, little Cooper 500s, the whole lot, in amongst the trucks and Devil's Elbow and all those fun things. So it was a great time. So, and thank you, Ken.
On that day in 1985, I was in my ex-Brabham Formula 1 Brabham with the big engine, and there were a lot of people at Devil's Elbow, and I gave her for a big footfall, and they were old racing tyres. Well, yeah, right, I'm used to sideways, so what? Well, it was a 360 into the Melbourne traffic. Okay. Now, I will almost stop. I think it's almost 3.5 minutes. And what I was going to do was to read out some of the words that were said on JB's death in 2004. And the tributes in the Advertiser were wonderful. He was regarded so highly by many people, but he was a bastard because at the Grand Prix rallies, when we would have the big dinner, was it at the convention centre or different places, 500 or 600 people probably. And one night, and he always used to, at the start of the night, say, wander over, he'd say, "Oh, Ken, would you do a speech of appreciation?" I don't know why he did that. It spoiled out my dinner. I had to think, what do you say? But there was one night, and at about 9:30, all of the celebrities had turned up, the Moss and the Hill and the Home and the others. And the room hushed, and it was 5 times champion of the world who worked in Fangio. And everyone stood up and applauded. And then when it came time, now Fangio, I had met him, squeaky little voice, and he was presenting the trophies. He had an interpreter. She looked like a girlfriend to me. And why wouldn't she? And he did his thing, and the trophies were presented. And Sterling was asked to speak. He spoke for probably 3/4 of an hour. It was sensational. The final speaker of the night was me. I said about 3 words. Now, there's more, but I am going to stop. What I was going to do is to read out some of the words that were said in the Tiser when JB passed. But what I'm going to do is a drink. And I would like to propose that we have a drink to JB, and I would ask you to join me in giving him 3 cheers. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip.